Hey, my friend, let's be real here. Have you been feeling like the Cowboys are just stuck? Because you're not alone. While other teams are making bold, calculated moves, the Cowboys seem to be playing catch-up with an outdated playbook. And today, I want to dive deep with you into this market game, because something doesn't sit right. Let's start by looking just across the state. The Texans, for example, locked up Derek Stingley early. And you know why? Because they know paying early saves money later. Simple math. It's all about getting ahead of the market before other deals start driving prices up. But what about our Cowboys? They always want to offer last year's money. It's like they're living in a time capsule. Instead of setting the trend, they're reacting to it. And by the time they try to strike a deal, the prices have already gone through the roof. That's not forward thinking. That's playing defense in the front office. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you have to overpay for every player. But there's a difference between being smart and being slow. The NFL market is constantly evolving, and if you're not adapting, you're falling behind. And here's the real question I want to ask you today, one-on-one. Do you think the Cowboys are falling behind in the NFL market? Drop a comment right now, yes or no. Let's see where the real fans stand. Also, while you're at it, hit that like button if you've ever shouted at the screen during a Cowboys off-season move. You're not alone. And this is just the beginning. We've got a lot to talk about. Because when it comes to building a roster, the Cowboys have choices to make in the draft. And some names are really starting to heat up. All right, now that we've unpacked what the Cowboys are or aren't doing in free agency, let's shift gears and talk about the next big play, the draft. You and I both know that the draft is where you shape the future of your team. And this year, the conversation is already heating. Up around 3 possible directions for the Cowboys: wide receiver, running back, or that good old reliable offensive or defensive line. Let's start with Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, I know. Running backs aren't exactly the hottest commodity right now. The market's been soft, teams are devaluing the position, and yet, Jeanty might just be special enough to break that trend. His burst, balance, and ability to create yards after contact make him one of those rare backs you can build around. He's not just a runner, he's a weapon. But then there's Tetairoa McMillan. If you've watched his tape, you know what I'm talking about. This kid has WR1 traits written all over him. Size, athleticism, body control. He checks all the boxes. So why is he slipping on some boards? Maybe it's system concerns, maybe it's competition questions, but let's be honest. If McMillan is sitting there at the Cowboys' pick, he's going to be hard to pass up. Now, let's not forget what built the Cowboys during their strongest years, the trenches. That's where games are won. And right now, Dallas could absolutely use a fresh injection of talent at offensive line or even at defensive tackle. You've got guys in this class who can come in and anchor the front from day one. So here's where I turn it over to you, my friend. If you were the Cowboys GM today, who would you take in the first round? McMillan? Jeanty? A big-time offensive lineman? Or maybe a dominant defensive tackle? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see how you're thinking. And hey, don't just comment. Scroll through, reply to another fan's take. Let's get this debate going strong. But hold on, because things get even more interesting when we talk about something the front office rarely does early in the offseason. A possible blockbuster trade. Yeah, you heard that right. There's buzz around Courtland Sutton and even Stephon Diggs. Let's get into that next. All right, now let's get into the juicy part of the conversation. Something that always gets fans fired up, trades. Lately, there's been a lot of noise around Courtland Sutton. And let's be honest, the idea of Sutton in a Cowboys uniform is tempting. He's big, physical, and can win contested catches, something this offense desperately needs. But here's the question. At what cost? Denver reportedly wants decent compensation, and you'd likely have to talk about an extension right away to make the cap numbers work. Are you willing to part with a third-round pick, and maybe more, to make it happen? And would you be ready to commit $13 to $15 million a year for a receiver who's talented but hasn't exactly been dominant in recent seasons? Now, throw Stefon Diggs into the conversation. Some fans are dreaming big. And sure, Diggs is a game changer. Route running, separation, big playability, leadership. But again, you're talking about huge money. We're talking over $15 million per year, plus whatever draft capital it would take to get him. Is that really a move that fits the Cowboys' long-term strategy? This is where things get tricky. Because if you go all in on a trade like that, you're admitting that your window to win is right now. You'd be sacrificing future draft capital for a short-term boost. And sure, it's exciting, but is it smart? So I'm throwing this one straight to you. Would you make a move for Sutton? Or do you think it's better to roll the dice in the draft and develop younger, cheaper talent? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to hear how you see this. And while you're at it, vote below. Trade for a WR or build through the draft. What's your call? And hey, we're not done yet, because there's one more wrinkle in all this that nobody's talking enough about. A scenario that could flip the whole draft strategy upside down. What if the Cowboys don't stay put at all? Let's talk about the possibility of a trade down and why that could quietly be the biggest move Dallas makes this year. That's next. Now, let's talk about something that's flying under the radar, but could end up being the Cowboys' boldest move in this draft. Trading down. I know. It's not the flashiest move. It doesn't get headlines like a first-round splash or a star player trade. But think about it for a second. If the Cowboys don't love the options at their pick, moving down could actually be the smartest play on the board. There are a few teams lurking just behind Dallas in the draft order. The Steelers, Patriots, Chargers, just to name a few that might be eyeing someone specific. Maybe a guy like Ashton Jeanty, Tetairoa McMillan, or even a fast-rising offensive tackle like Tyler Guyton. If one of those players is still on the board when the Cowboys are on the clock, don't be surprised if the phones start ringing. And here's something to really think about. If another team is desperate enough to trade up for a guy, shouldn't that make you question whether you should be the one picking him instead? I mean, if Jeanty or McMillan is worth jumping up for, are the Cowboys making a mistake by passing on them? But there's another side to this too. By trading down, Dallas could pick up an extra second or third rounder and still land a solid player in the late first. That gives the front office more shots at filling roster holes, and let's be real, this team still has a few. So now I'm tossing it back to you again. Do you think the Cowboys should consider a trade down this year? Or do you want them to stand their ground and go get a blue chip guy at their original spot? Drop your vote below. Yes to a trade down or no, stick with the pick. And go ahead, use that comment section. Tell me what kind of deal you'd actually be okay with. Now, to close this out, let's look at the bigger picture. The current state of the roster, what's still missing, and how many reinforcements could still be on the way. Let's wrap it all up next. All right, let's close this out by taking a step back and looking at the full picture, where the Cowboys truly stand, right now, heading into this critical stretch before the draft. As it stands, Dallas has 74 players under contract. That's already a packed house, considering that the team is expected to bring in around 10 new faces via the draft, assuming no big trade-ups or moves that reduce that number. So what does that mean? Simple. There's not a whole lot of room left. If you've been hoping for a big splash in free agency, it's probably not coming. The Cowboys front office has pretty much signaled that this roster is nearly set, and if any new names arrive, they'll most likely be depth signings. Maybe a swing tackle, maybe a veteran safety, but nothing headline-worthy. Now here's something that could make the difference. Hitting on a couple of late-round sleepers. Keep an eye on names like Kyle Williams, a freak athlete who's catching attention as a versatile DB, Elijah Roberts, a tough interior D lineman with upside, and Teddy Beenan, a gritty linebacker who's been flying under the radar but has that classic Dan Quinn guy energy. These are the kind of players that could sneak onto the 53-man roster and become unexpected contributors by mid-season. And let's be honest, you've seen it before. Every year, one or two guys from the later rounds or undrafted pool end up becoming fan favorites. So here's the final question I've got for you today. How many more players do you think the Cowboys will add before the draft officially begins? Drop your guess in the comments. 0, 1, 2, or more. And hey, if you've enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because we've got a special live show planned for draft night, breaking down every pick and every move in real time. All right, friend, I'll see you in the comments. And as always, go Cowboys.